And that, of course, is not very complicated, because it doesn't take a whole lot of talent to figure out that in America it was meant that we as individuals should be left alone to our own bidding as long as we don't hurt people. Just stay out of our lives and let us be. The government was never expected to tell us what we were supposed to put into our minds, or put into our soul, or put into our bodies. And it was never intended by our Constitution that the government should run the economy. Let me assure you, the people I've met in Washington, whether they're the bureaucrats or the politicians, they're not smart enough to run the economy.
Yeah. That's right.
When they tell you that they should run the economy, means that they want to run your financial life, that they have a right to your finances totally and completely. This is the concept built on the personal income tax. The assumption is made that the government owns 100% of the fruits of your labor, and they will give you permission to keep a certain percentage. So whether it's 1% or 99% taxation, the principle is wrong, and that's why we have to get rid of the income tax and repeal the 16th Amendment.
That's right!
But the other half of that is we assume responsibility for ourselves, and if we're left alone and allowed to keep the fruits of our labor, we can take better care of ourselves than the government could ever pretend to. But it was never intended that the government would regulate our personal lives, our personal privacy. And yet today, in this post-9/11 atmosphere, we have sacrificed way too much. There has been a systematic attack on personal liberty for the last 6 years. We need to reverse that. Repeal laws like the Patriot Act and make sure we never get a national ID card.
That's right!
And if you listen to the debates, you will hear it talked about frequently. Yes, we need that identifier, because if we don't have that identifier for all Americans, we won't know who's illegal and legal. I say it's unnecessary. What we need is a free market economy, a free society where the economy is so healthy, the issue of illegal aliens would become a non-issue, because there would be a need for workers in this country. As long as we have this economic condition that encourages people not to work and encourages illegal immigration and dependency of bringing families here and whatnot, then you're going to have more of it. But if you have a free and healthy economy with sound money, there will be no contention with people coming into this country, and we could be much more generous with our immigration policy.
Thank you.
Over the years, it has been well known, and Randolph Bourne stated it best when he said that war is the health of the state. When there's a war going on, we the people are supposed to cow down and accept whatever we're told by the government, that in times of emergency you have to sacrifice liberty. That's nonsense. We never have to sacrifice 1 ounce of liberty in the preservation, 1 ounce of liberty to preserve safety and security. Safety and security is better achieved by free people than slaves. Now there's another. We all know about the war in Iraq, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to talk about another war that's an illegal war. It's an intrusion on our privacy. It's an excuse to abuse our liberties wholesale, and that is the war on drugs. Now, in a free society, there are always problems, and people get to make choices. Some people will make bad choices, but they have to be responsible for their bad choices. I happen to have a personal belief about drugs. I happen to think they're terribly dangerous. But as a physician, I also have come to the conclusion that prescription drugs are causing a lot more harm in this country than the illegal drugs.
Damn right.
And in the with illegal drugs, the main danger is that of the nonviolent behavior of some individuals who are addicted, and we treat them as criminals instead of sick people. We don't treat alcoholics by putting them all in prison, but if somebody happens to be addicted to a drug, they should receive help. But they can't receive help by turning them into criminals and throwing them in prisons. I, as a president, if I had the opportunity, any individual that has been in prison for a nonviolent drug problem ought to be released. We should deal only with the violent people in society, and we have enough of that to deal with. Not too long ago, we heard the case of a senator getting into trouble. That always bothered me a bit because it seems to me like there was a lot of wasted police energy sitting around in a place that seems to be inappropriate for a policeman. But you know, why are those policemen out looking for the rapists and the murderers and the pedophiles and the different people in the country rather than sitting around in toilet stalls? I mean, what have we come to? To feel safer because now we have the government totally in charge of our security at airports. We're supposed to feel safer because they take our toothpaste from us and they mull us over at the airport and delay things, and we're supposed to feel a lot safer. That's because they're missing the whole point of why we have been endangered. But the principle is personal liberty. It's your life. It's your life to make good use out of it or to destroy it. If you make bad choices, you have to suffer the consequences. Economics is the same way. If you want to work hard, get your degrees, and be ambitious, and get to keep the fruits of your labor, you ought to be able to do it. That is what can get us to achieve the greatest amount of prosperity, best distributed, is under a free market economy. Of course, we've had this violation of our personal liberties, and we've had this intrusion of the federal government, especially in our economic affairs, and it has undermined our system, and this today is one of the reasons why people are unhappy. You know, the government tells us there's no inflation. Of course, they quit giving us the numbers to measure inflation, and that's the money supply. They won't even give us those numbers anymore. But the money supply is skyrocketing, which means they're inflating the currency, which means the value of the dollar is going down. It means prices go up. Somebody the other day sort of challenged me at one of my meetings. He says, well, what's the difference if there's 3% inflation rate and everybody's prices go up 3%? It's not the way it happens. What happens is if they inflate, somebody's prices might go up 15% and somebody else might make a lot of profit over the whole deal. So the whole process of the inflation is a very, very bad system. If we want to have a healthy economy, we have to obey the Constitution, and still, under the Constitution, has never been repealed, is that only gold and silver can be legal tender, not paper money. But there is a precise reason that those rules were changed 100 years ago, 1913, and since that time we've eliminated 96% of the value of the dollar. It is the tool for big government. It is the tool and the ability for government to grow. Not only did we have the income tax come in 1913, but we had the Federal Reserve come in. So that means it turns over to the government this opportunity to spend money and not be responsible. They can just either collect it by force through taxes, or then they can go to the Federal Reserve. The best approach to that, of course, is not only legalizing gold and silver, but eventually what we need to do is we need to repeal the whole Federal Reserve Act and get rid of the Federal Reserve System. If the people were required to pay for the government they get on a weekly basis, believe me, there would have been a good rebellion a long time ago.